Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Judy Ann Kellaway. I'm the Associate Dean for Admissions and Outreach at the Long School of Medicine, and I'm happy to be back with you today. We are talking about the shoebox. This is part two. In part one, we went through the shoebox and how you collect all of this information for this great journey that you're on your path to medical school. So now we're on part two. We are going to dig in a little bit of detail, um, digging into the personal biography. So this is a very important part of your application. This is where all your logs, all of your activities that you're logging goes. And so let's start right now. Okay. First of all, if you haven't downloaded the shoebox, there you go. It's on a shared Google Doc, and it will have a lot of resources, a lot of information there. You should download it and then maybe save yourself a copy so that's clean and yours. So I've put examples on all of those tabs there, all of the sheets in that document, and you can build it to be your own. So I hope you'll find it useful. A lot of people say that it's very useful in along this path. So anyway, I wanted to start with some general tips and before we get into the details. So applying early is one of the great reasons you're doing this shoebox, getting everything ready. It takes people, when you watch the video about walking through the application, I give you some of the timeline stuff. It takes people weeks and weeks and weeks, and sometimes months and months, like up to 3 months, not to finish their personal statement or finish some of the other essays or their secondaries or things like that. It takes them months and months just because they didn't know what to expect and they're not prepared to answer these questions that are in the application nowadays. So having this shoebox tees you up. You've got all the information right there, ready to go. So when May 1 happens in your year and you're ready to hit the road, hit that application open button, it will help you and it will help you submit way earlier also. I like to tell you to apply in your year. If things don't feel right, if you don't feel ready, if you feel like you haven't had time to do everything, and we ask a lot of you. So it's a very reasonable thing to feel like you're just not ready. And then that's when you plan a wonderful gap year. And more advice on that later. But right now, you'll examine all of the contents of your shoebox for balance. You can look at the big things that stand out and the small things that may or may not make it to the level of including in your application. But right now, you put everything in the shoebox, everything large and small. One of my mottos, I have several. One of my mottos is all good things are good. So if you ask me, is this good? Is that good? And is it good to put in the application? I'm going to say, yes, all good things are good. And do you want to put it in your application? Well, was it meaningful? Did you find value? Did you grow from this? Um, we'll talk about the prompts in a moment. So, but right now, you put everything in your shoebox. Okay. Everything might not make it to the application, but that's for you to decide later. The application will ask you for things since you have graduated from high school. And all of these categories will say, do you have experience in leadership? Do you have healthcare experience? And you get to say yes or no. Once you say yes, then there will be a drop down where you can fill out your activities. So still some more general tips are that the descriptions on the shoebox, on the tab that says reflection, it will tell you, I think it's up to date so far, but it will tell you how many characters you have in all of these sections. So you can do a lot with these activity descriptions. You can even do a lot with the activity title. I have read some examples of things, and it would say shadowing, for example. And I read the title, I read the location, I read the description of the activity, and I still can't figure out what kind of shadowing it was. Was it a clinic? Was it a hospital? Was it a private practice? Was it family medicine or PM&R? What was it? So you can do a lot. So you should really give some thought to everything you're writing in your application. And one way to look at it is, can somebody who doesn't know this path and isn't also pre-med, can they understand what I'm saying? So be careful of abbreviations. And the ones that you may think are common might have several meanings. So ask for advice or think about it before you abbreviate things. And you want a judicious use of each, all of your characters. They're all important. Reflection is a superpower. I cannot say this often enough. It is so important that you reflect on everything that you're doing and everything that you're writing in that application. Um, it will really make the difference. And it's a common reason, it's a common mistake in filling out the application is you're just throwing something, not you, but someone is just throwing information out there just to get that application completed and get it submitted and all that. So don't do that. It shouldn't be a rushed thing. You should be prepared, and the shoebox will help you. You shouldn't repeat too much or exaggerate, really, because you're going to be asked about everything that you put in here. So carrying out to the future, use caution. We'll talk about some examples. And you should, it's going to ask you several things, as I told you in part one. It's going to ask you the title of the activity and the location, when it started, when it ended, how many total hours, and how many hours per week did you put into this endeavor. So watch that that's a true reflection of the activity. Okay, sometimes it's not an every week kind of thing. And that's why I say start with your total hours that you've logged for that activity, and then you can average it for the weekly number of hours that they want to have in the application. Don't be an underseller either. Brag, we don't want to see bragging, but put everything goes in your shoebox, and then we can weigh whether it's going to make it to the actual application. Don't be an underseller. And this is all built on a foundation of integrity. Of course, being a physician requires ultimate honesty, truth, integrity. So we get asked periodically, I don't have anything to document these hours. And that's perfectly okay, because you're going to tell the truth as you know it in your application. So other common questions. How much is enough? Mm, so I don't like to throw numbers out there. Okay. And we're in May 2025 right now. There have been some recent articles in medical education literature where some committee members are saying we're asking people to do hundreds and hundreds of hours of shadowing or scribing, for example. And those opportunities are just so hard to find. Are we really asking them something, to do something? Is this essential? All of these hundreds of hours. I will tell you right now, I think post COVID, we have seen fewer hours in healthcare activities like scribing and shadowing, and some community service activities. So, how much is enough? The average we see is probably 150 hours to 200 in the major areas like healthcare. Okay. So I would say shadowing for a week, maybe 40 hours, seems a little low, maybe. Okay. But it's not the number of hours. When you're counting hours, it makes it like a checkbox. Okay, I've got my 50th hour done. So now I think that's enough because somebody said it was enough. So it's really hard to put a number on it. And it's really what you gain from that activity. That's the very most important thing. Our committee has no minimums, no minimum hours that we look for. We could imagine, I don't suggest it, we could imagine a scenario where you're doing an activity in an important category like healthcare, maybe, and you're doing it for 8 hours, but you have so much perspective on it from other endeavors that maybe that is enough, and maybe you have gotten so much out of that. But really, I'm not recommending that. Anyway, do I have to have a variety? Should I have long-term and short-term things? I think it's best. I think it's best. Yes, it's good to have variety, not essential, not a deal breaker if you don't. And people often have some long-term things punctuated with some short-term activities as well. So I think those are all good. But all of those questions kind of bring us back to this is not a checkbox. If I tell you how many hours you're going to be checking off, that's not the kind of logging that you need to do. The none of this is a checkbox. Okay, there's a lot to do. You've seen this slide on a number of videos. There's a lot to do, but it's not a checkbox. And this help the superpower of reflection will help you turn it from a checkbox into something more meaningful that you can tell us about, and eliminate one of those most common errors that we see in an applicant's uh, submission of materials. And that is, for every activity, ask yourself, sit in a quiet place. Reflection takes some time, and it takes a quiet space for your mind to work, your mind and your heart and your soul, right? So think about an activity. And this could be fun catch up homework while you're building your shoebox. All of this is going to really strengthen your application. Ask yourself one, two, or three questions. Ask yourself, how was this meaningful to me? What lessons did I learn from this activity? And, or how did I grow from this activity? Forgot a question mark there. But anyway, those are your three prompts for all of the activities that you're logging in your shoebox. Okay, so let's get started. In the TMDSAS system, we like the way we do it. We have these 8 categories for you to list activities. Some are going to fit into most. Some are going to fit into more than one, rather, and we talk about that in part 1. You'll get to build your shoebox and decide how you want to categorize this activity. Some things could be healthcare and community service, or service and leadership. So you don't have to decide right this minute. You can categorize it as a couple of things until you're submitting. Um, so we need to see reflection in there. Okay, so beware of doing checkboxy things. When I think, so no offense, I love my AMCAS people, but they have 19 categories, which kind of means, like, when you look at those 19 categories, we're not going to talk about them here. They're on the shoebox for you, and they're on the AMCAS and AAMC websites. Lots of good resources for you there. But when you see that list of categories, you might go, oh my gosh, what am I going to put for artistic endeavors? I don't have any of those. Well, that's okay. They're not wanting you to do a checkbox. So don't feel forced into doing something because you need to check it off a list. Okay, please be aware of that. Let's go through these honors and awards. Anything people undersell here sometimes. Anything that was competitive. If you were nominated for a special role, that counts. Okay, honor societies that you belong to, either academic or in student organizations, special programs, certificate programs. If you complete something that not everybody does, or not everybody gets to do, not everybody comes to completion on something, then that's a competitive thing. It's a recognition, and you should log it. You'll have 2 areas in this section of honors and awards and recognition: academic and non-academic recognition. Okay, I've seen people with 4.0 GPA in their undergrad school not tell us that they were on the dean's list. So don't do that. This is not the place to be humble. Your humility can come across in your essays and in other ways. Um, Sports, like if your team goes to state, if your sport goes to your team goes to regional, that should be in here. You were part of a team that achieved something. So tournaments and individual accomplishments in those individual sports is valuable here also. Arts and humanities, if you are a creative person into artistic endeavors, maybe you take your photography hobby to another level and maybe submit those photographs to contests. We've seen that. We've seen somebody who won a punning contest, photography, writing, poetry, all of those things count. Research awards. Your research project was awarded, one of the top 3, or had honorable mention, or you were selected to be in the group at research day, telling people maybe you didn't win one of the awards, but you were selected to be in. That counts. It all counts. Okay. And grants, sometimes grants or scholarships are competitive. Anything that you got that everybody else didn't get. It's also helpful in this section if you are in like a student organization, something like that. You might want to tell us what the parameters were. Maybe you had to maintain a certain GPA. Maybe you had to accomplish a certain number of hours in an activity, usually service kind of things. So tell us, if you won a scholarship that 1 in 2,000 people get, we would like to know that. You know. So tell us about the nature of that. So now we're into the leadership section. And this is not a section restricted to club officership. Okay. So club officers, if you're an officer in a student organization, certainly you have learned some great things there and exhibited and learned more about leading. But not everybody can be a club officer. You can be a member, but you can have great leadership skills. So I would say, even if you can't think of anything initially, drop go ahead and say yes so that you can see what the drop down is, because sometimes we're asking you to go ahead and describe your leadership capabilities, and it is something that you should be paying attention to, and acquiring or growing those skills. So besides club officers, you've got camp counselors, scouting, teaching, coaching, tutoring, mentoring, being an RA or a TA. Any place where you are guiding, leading, advising, all of those activities to help someone along the way, are great leadership activities. So know what those skills are. Think about what leadership skills are. Use them. Learn to be a public speaker. Learn to be a good role model. Exhibit professionalism. This is a huge topic. Go watch those videos, please. And I think we all can grow in this all the time. So these things that are related to leadership skills are also interwoven with your professional identity and your growth as a professional. And you might think you're very professional right now, but I promise you, the challenges of medical school and this path are going to make you more so, more professional. And you're going to be in sticky situations where you don't quite have the answer, and you're going to learn about best choices and things like that. So look at some of these things. Start an effort, support an effort. Those are leadership kinds of things. I'll tell Toastmasters. Not a lot of people know what this is. It's for public speaking. It's a club. It's a community-based organization. All cities have Toastmasters clubs, and they say, okay, it's your turn. Stand up and give us a 3-minute talk on pets. And so you get up and do your best, and you bumble through for a while until you gain experience. It's full of tips about these great professional skills, related to public speaking. Rotary Club. Anyway, practice leadership. Think about it. Think about put it in your shoebox. Ways that you are exhibiting leadership. Let me tell you the peanut butter story. So I read an applicant. All these ideas come from you all. Come from the things that we read in your applications. So the peanut butter story is a young lady who, for a semester, organized a group. She was a leader. Everybody came to her house. Somebody brought the peanut butter. Somebody brought the jelly. Somebody brought the brown paper bags. Somebody brought chips. Somebody brought health care information for one of the community clinics. They made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and then they went to a place. This was in Houston, where homeless people would hang out, and they would say, here's a treat for you, and then here is some information about the clinic that's right 2 blocks down the street here, and here are the services that they provide in case you want any of those. It was a great idea, and she thought it up, all by herself, and it was service and leadership, and just a great thing to do. What about, I always say this too, how about a food drive when it's not Thanksgiving? Food pantries are helping people in food shortage areas all the time, so think about some ways that you could put good into the world as a leader and pull a group together to do that. Next is research. You will want to kind of ask around, if, you know, our school does not look at this as a menu. Many schools don't. We don't need something in all of these boxes, and no research is not a deal breaker for us. If it's not your thing, if you just want to explore it and you find out this really isn't my thing, that's okay. It means you're going to have experiences and strengths in other areas preparing you for medicine. It certainly does expand your knowledge of medicine and how the scientific process works. It does not have to be, in my view, my advice for you, it doesn't have to be um, a basic science or natural science. It can be in the social sciences. It can be in any discipline. So sociology and psychology projects are worth something also. Um, there are courses where you learn about research. You have some experiences in laboratories, so look at those things. And then abstracts and posters and presentations is a new drop down we've done for a couple of years, so that you have a place if you are really loving your research and going farther beyond basics. Then you have a way to tell us about that with the other things, the presentations and things you might have done. All right. So probably the most important area, right? Healthcare. Probably a deal breaker for a lot of schools if it says, do you have healthcare experience? And your answer is no. Because then we're going to look for it to see, did you misunderstand some instructions? But if we're not seeing healthcare related activities or very little, we might think you're not quite ready. You know, don't, we would want you to know plenty about healthcare um, before you make a medical school application. So it's probably the most important area. Don't know why it's not at the top of our list, but it's not right now. So you'll see some stars here on the next couple of slides. These are what we on the surface might call high value, me looking at your activity. But I can't assume that other things don't have tremendous value, right? So we try to tell our committee all the time, let's watch what the applicant is writing about, because maybe we think that some certificate or another, some activity or another is not very worthwhile, but you get to tell us all about how meaningful it was for you. And then we can't argue with that, right? So, and that's back to reflection, the superpower, right? So anyway, other things that could fit in this area is the clinical parts of research, certificates, or work in the field, employment in a field related to healthcare, EMT, CPR courses, being a nursing assistant, being a patient care tech. Actually, some of those things, assisting a patient every day with basic needs on the surface for us is very high value, because you're sort of giving up your time when you could be doing some fun things not related to your path, but you're giving your time to have another person, another human being have a good day, be clean and comfortable. So we've put high value on those kinds of things too. Hospital volunteering, shadowing in other areas listed. Those are some examples: shadowing dentists or physician's assistants, or people in PT, OT. That those are all good. All good things are good, but we really want you to understand what a physician does. So that will be important. It's hard now, right? It's very hard, has been for a long, long time, for people to get shadowing and scribing um, activities. Cold calling is still one of the most, or cold emailing, looking around to offer your self as a professional. When you're doing this cold emailing or cold calling, be short and sweet. Tell people you know how to behave as a professional. You're aware of HIPAA, and how to protect patient confidentiality and things like that. Still be short and sweet, and that you're willing to do it without pay. You just want to learn about things. You can start with your own doctors or doctors that your family members have, but you often have to step out and get out of your comfort zone and not just like pick the easy. Nothing's coming to you, right? So you have to go out there and find those activities. Other creative ways are reading a medical textbook, reading a book about medicine, reading a book about an era in medicine. Some of the books about the early years of the HIV virus and AIDS are very interesting. So the history of medicine has some wonderful, wonderful things for us to learn from. Anyway, all kinds of other things that you could do. Remember, you could, in some sources, I think on your shoebox, you'll find some of these sources. You could walk through an organ system. You could go to YouTube um, and look up an organ system, the pulmonary system, the respiratory system, and learn about the anatomy, learn about the physiology. Just ask, explore it, and find out what is the exam. Use your search engines to find how do you do this exam. What are those? What's a pulmonologist looking for? What are the common diagnoses and diseases and treatments in this area or not or other. So you're sort of taking the bull by the horns. Then you're being self-sufficient and teaching yourself when things aren't coming to you. You can still spend. You can do that now and spend a couple hours on a Sunday or whatever your free day is. Spend a couple hours just exploring medicine in a variety of ways yourself. TED Talk. Curate a list of TED Talks that are medically related. So just some ideas for you that come out of people trying to work through this in COVID. Um, so community service, I think, is very important. The thing to call it right now is community engagement. I still I am sort of refusing to go there right this minute because if you're doing good service, you are engaging the community. You are doing things that are valuable to the people you're serving, and you're finding out about that. Okay. But I like service because engagement doesn't, for me, have the connotation of sacrifice and service. You are serving others. You were going to, in medicine, for a lot of your life in medicine, you're going to serve others and you're going to make sacrifices and you're going to miss family events and birthday parties and all those kinds of things for the oh, the great good of sorry about that the great good of serving others. So it's a very good personal attribute to practice and develop. Anyway, all good things are good, right? So if you're doing a run for MS and raising money, if you're helping with a blood drive and getting more people to donate, if you are giving in many ways, it all counts. Okay. But we are really looking for things that I call heart to heart and hand to hand. So that means spending time with people. That means you're with people in a nursing home, for example. Maybe a lot of their friends are gone. Maybe most of their family is even in another place. You could make somebody's day just by playing Scrabble or reading to them a book or the Bible or whatever their likes are, whatever they would like. Let me mention a couple of other things. OOCZ and OOB is out of your box and out of your comfort zone. So get out there and learn about people who are not like you. Help people. Maybe you come from um, a background where maybe things were a little bit easier for you than some people about. Well, go serve in those communities, and I think you'll get a lot out of that. Habitat for Humanity is awesome. Spending time at the nursing home, all those surrounded by the 2 stars. Nursing home, playing bingo and games with people, being a caregiver, and Big Brothers, Big Sisters are all showing sacrifice, as is Crisis Text Line. That's the CTL. I think that there's a lot of ways to develop empathy, but if you're on if if your shift is now and it's 3 a.m. and someone calls you because they're in a crisis, um, what a great way to show that you care about a stranger. So we put a lot of value on crisis text line. They train you. It's amazing some of the stories that we hear in interviews about your work at crisis text line. Anyway, and I'll mention Big Brothers Big Sisters. They need to give me some sort of like kickback because I mention it all the time. Their requirements are minimal. Everybody who does this comes back and tells me, "Oh my gosh, it was such a great experience." You're the big, and this organization is everywhere. They train you how to be the big. They train you to mentor. So you go through some training. They require one activity a month with a young person who might not know that it's even in their realm of possibility to go to high school or finish high school or go to college. But you get to be a great influence on a child that Big Brothers Big Sisters identifies as someone who might benefit from having a mentor. Maybe parents are around, maybe both parents are around even, but they're all working two jobs. So you can help in so many different ways, opening up a world of dreams for these young people in Big Brothers Big Sisters. So look into that. Okay, so here we are, extracurricular. This is my favorite place. This is the first place I scroll down to extracurricular activities because I'm in a medical school application, right? I know there's going to be healthcare, kind of know there's going to be some service and maybe some research. I kind of know what to expect there. I don't know what to expect in this. Um, Once you get the picture. Um, so very common things. You don't want a common application, but very common things are running and exercise and membership in student organizations. What did I say? What do I say? All good things are good. So is running good? Of course it is. Is exercise good? Of course it is. And sometimes people are just really passionate about these activities. So that's great. Tell us about it. Okay. Um, but that's very typical. So that's great. You stand out by doing some things that are not typical. Okay. And often when I'm telling people about these things on this particular slide of extracurricular activities, people go, "Oh, I didn't know I could put that in there." Some of the most fun things we learn about an applicant to medical school come with the discussion in this section. So think about the things that you're doing. This is where you pull all these things together. This is where you use your personal growth plan. Go look at the other video called White Coat Notes number 4, personal growth plan. You're underestimating the power in your personal attributes. Go look at that, and we go into some detail about planning this, creating and planning a personal growth plan. Start a collection, start a hobby, level up your old hobby. If you read already, how about logging your reading, making a goal to go through all of your favorite authors' books? I interviewed somebody last cycle who I thought this was very ambitious. Her goal was to read a book a month. She was in school and had to do studying and things, but her goal was to get through um, a book a month. And so it was great. And she was close to meeting her goal, but at least she was trying, right? And she could talk about it as like setting goals, but also getting so much out of it. We see a lot of people doing cooking and crocheting and crafting and grilling and baking. Go for it. Explore and level up means do it with a group, do it for profit that you donate to a good cause. I love my grilling example. I want somebody to do this. Do you love to grill? So have grilling parties once a month or two, every other month or something. And everybody brings chicken, but so chicken is the topic, but the person who has the best grilled chicken recipe wins the pot of, you can put in a $5 thing and then somebody wins the pot. Make something fun out of it, bringing people together in a different way. Learn a language, teach yourself something. We love that. Teaching myself the guitar, teaching myself to speak my native language, which I don't know, teaching myself Spanish, teaching yourself anything is awesome. Um, Podcasts. So some of you have these things that you do and you don't realize. We would love to hear about that. Um, um, Somebody was listening to this like really neat podcast. It was like whales one day, and the next day it was the stars, and just a different topic every day. What if you logged it? What if you logged your time doing that fun thing, and logged what you learned, one or two little things you learned that day on your personal growth plan? I think that would be a fun thing to talk about during interviews. Same thing with TED Talks. Curate yourself a list. It doesn't have to be related to medicine. It could be anything. If you have this, I'm kind of loving with all these eclipses and things that have been happening, and blood moons and special names for certain moons. I have developed this interest in the sky. And what if you curated yourself a list of TED Talks about something that you are interested in now? So the point is, you log it and you watch your time spent in that activity, and think and log what you're learning about. Teach yourself something. The ukulele. So I got a little book about how to do the ukulele, because I have said this a million times. Like, teach yourself the ukulele. It's 4 strings. It's little. It's $25 on Amazon. So like, what could be so hard? It's kind of hard. So I learned. I did what I was asking people to do. It's not that easy, but it's got some fun sound and lots of great music out there for the ukulele. Yeah, so I think if it was something you're interested in, you can do something like that, and we'll think that that's awesome. Get out of your comfort zone and out of your box. Okay. In this section here, I need to tell you that if you do log 100 hours in healthcare, that sounds pretty good to me. I need to see what you are writing about it, what you're reflecting about, etc. Okay. But if you have 100 hours up there in the healthcare section and you list 4,000 hours in the gym, or you put here that you spend 4,000 hours in gaming, people are going to do a little eye rolling or chuckling, and you don't want people chuckling at your application. Okay. Somebody in that admissions committee meeting is going to say, gosh, they could have used some of those gym hours to go serve someone, or to read about medicine, read a book about medicine or something, all the things that we've talked about. So please, that's a warning for you. And I know that sometimes we're passionate about these things, but we want to see that looks just off balance. And so there you go. I want to tell you good things, and I want to warn you about some other things. So um, work experience, oh my goodness, um, develops maturity, problem solving, learning how to communicate with people, all kinds of work teaches you all kinds of things. So we love to hear what you're learning about while you're supporting yourself, or just doing it, honestly, just to do it. Maybe you don't need to support yourself, but you want to go experience. I think everybody should experience the responsibility and the strengths you gain from a work experience. Um, and we do take it under consideration when we look at your academic pathway too. We look at your work experience in that context as well. And the last one here in the personal biography is planned activities, open slate, blank blank slate. What is going to happen? So the TMDSAS in the first section, we told you some guidelines that they're going to ask you for. Um, um, but they should be continuations of things that you're already doing, and not the bulk of experiences that are important, especially. So healthcare, if we are seeing kind of a light, or if the hours are light, the reflection, the depth is not going to be there either. So they kind of do go hand in hand a bit. So if we see sort of light hours in healthcare, but you're planning to get a scribing job, I think that's awesome. But maybe it's not your year to apply, right? Because you haven't accomplished it yet. So it shouldn't be the bulk of your experience. And you can only carry things out so far, and watch this every year because it could change. If you are doing something and it's a continuing activity and you're going to do it through October, make sure you're really going to be doing that, because you might get an interview in August or September, and people will ask you, how's that activity? How's that going? What else are you learning? So just read those instructions on TMDSAS really well. while you're filling out the planned activities. And I like to tell you this mnemonic. There are some things in the application that we look for where there's not really a direct checkbox or text box where you can fill these things in, but admissions committees everywhere are looking for this in your application. So make sure you demonstrate these things. Okay. One is there are similarities here, but you'll get the picture. Challenge yourself. So sometimes, and you'll if you go to the white coat notes number 4 about personal growth plan and personal attributes, you will hear stories about people not who were undergoing a challenge so much. The challenge wasn't forced upon them, but they sought challenge. Okay. So people sometimes choose to do some challenging things and see what they can do, make the world better or make themselves better. So sometimes seeking a challenge is just brings you all kinds of good things, enhances your personal attributes. So challenge yourself sometimes. That's out of the comfort zone, out of the box, right? Learn something new. So we just talked about that in terms of that extracurricular activities section of the personal biography. Learn something new. Related to this is improve yourself. These things that you're doing that are new grow your intellect, they grow your maturity, they grow your view of the world, your perspective on others. So, learning something new and improving yourself. Maybe there's something specific that you ought to improve. Maybe you ought to improve your study skills. Maybe you ought to improve your public speaking, right? Maybe you aren't comfortable in class participating, um, and that kind of thing. So make a plan and improve yourself, and then tell us about it. It'd be awesome. We really want you to meet the people of the world, um, and especially people who are not like you. Okay. So whoever you are, in that comfort zone of yours with your people, make sure you step out of that and meet people who are not like you. Join a student organization that is not your description at all. Um, that gives us a wonderful perspective. It teaches us to respect others and not jump to conclusions and not hold biases against people. So meeting people of the world and people not like you is a very important thing. It ought to be at the top of the list. But my chat GPT, Rita, helped me with these. So it may change, may pop into the top of the list in another mnemonic, but right now, there it is. Very important. And break out of your comfort zone. Do things that are uncomfortable for you, and you'll you'll benefit greatly from this growth that you do. In case you wanted, I talked about this whole topic was your personal bio. You can have a handout that's related with some examples on things, most of which we talked about, I think. And then this QR code takes you to lessons from a pandemic, some of those ways to explore medicine and do service that we learned during the pandemic, which are still valid, valuable things for you. So I am going to stop there and hope I didn't take up too much of your time. Play me at like double speed. Sorry about the telephone there. I'll see you next time. I hope some of this is useful for you. Hopefully, at least just a little piece is something good for your application. Keep up the good work, keep doing good things, putting good into the world. This is all going to be worth it in the end. So it's been nice to be with you, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye bye.